And we are live. Here we go. Welcome to episode number 1 of K&C Basketball Podcast. I'm Sam Cooperman, otherwise known as Coop in many circles, so it's where the K comes. And Connor Weingarten over there on the other side of the screen. We're using Hangouts here from Google+, and we're talking all things hoops. And what better time to start than right smack dab in the middle of the NBA Finals, right? It's perfect time to start and build your brand,
It's great timing. We couldn't have picked a better time.
Exactly. It's like everyone's kind of got their podcast they listen to, whatever. Let's just start up right in the middle. But this will be a fun thing we're gonna do. We're two big passionate basketball fans, breaking into broadcasting here. Connor's still in school. I just finished up at Ithaca College. He still goes there. So we do a lot of stuff following along the league. You follow us both on social media. I think there's a way that you can put it here on the Hangouts, like your social media handle. I'll figure that out for next time. But I'm at Sam Coop, SAMKOOP. And Connor, you want to give yourself a little plug there?
At C Weingarten 123. Weingarten is spelled Weingarten. Tough name to spell.
Yeah, we're giving ourselves little plugs here, which I'm sure is very captivating for our audience. But now that aside, we're going to get right into it. And Game 5 is under an hour away. Going to be in Golden State. Draymond Green will not be playing. He'll be watching the A's playing tonight, which I think is the most hilarious part about this
That's
thing.
pretty
is that
funny.
Draymond Green is going to be in a suite. What is it? The O.Co Coliseum. Going to be watching the A's. He'll be one of the 1,000 people there watching.
I saw a tweet that he was going to increase attendance by 50% just by him being there.
Yeah, everyone's just gonna want to get up where the suite level is, try to get a selfie with Draymond or something. We'll just watch. They might as well just show the game on the screen. For people that don't have tickets, just go to the A's game. You can watch the Dubs play, and I guess during commercial breaks, you can look down at the baseball game below you. I guess that kind of works itself out. But
yeah,
that aside, though, Draymond, controversial suspension, one might say. I thought it was interesting, and what people need to recognize is this isn't based on one action. If this was based on just what he did to LeBron, he wouldn't be suspended. This is it's a culmination of a lot of different actions up, and he did what he did to Steve. He's one technical away from guess. There's so many different things that he's done that over time have added up, and he finds in. It's honestly, it could have been a lot worse. It could have. Imagine if the Warriors, and then he'd be in this position with his team facing elimination. I think it's a wake-up call to Draymond. And you can say what you want about how LeBron handled the situation. Yeah, maybe he took offense to something he shouldn't have taken offense to, but he got under Draymond's skin, and it worked clearly because the Warriors, one of their most impactful players, will not be on the floor for Game 5.
Yeah, Draymond already had 2 strikes on him, and when you look at it from his point of view, I guess a guy steps over you, and most people say they would have the same reaction that he did. But like I said, he already had the 3 flagrant points. He knows one more is going to have him suspended. LeBron knows one more is going to have him suspended. So it's really not a smart play by Draymond. He's probably going to miss the game tonight. He's going to miss the game, excuse me. Not sure how much it's really going to matter, but that's just Draymond being Draymond. He is who he is unapologetically. And that got him in a little bit of trouble. Maybe he'll learn. Maybe he won't have to learn. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But LeBron, I think it says a lot about LeBron that at this point, he's down 3-1. There's nowhere left for them really to go. So he's doing whatever he can to gain an advantage. I don't necessarily think he did it on purpose, trying to instigate Draymond, but any advantage he can get right now is going to be beneficial because he has very little help on this team.
Obviously, it worked out in LeBron's favor, but I don't think it's the kind of thing where you can say that, or at least the way I see it, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think it's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, we'll get him. He gets in his own head way too much, LeBron James does. I have not seen a player of his caliber, just mentally just struggle so much during games. You'll see it when he's out there not taking his mid-range jumpers, struggling to shoot the ball.
He's an absolute enigma.
It's crazy because he cares about what other people think. That's the thing that we've learned about him over the past years, really since the decision. LeBron James cares a lot about what other people think. It doesn't matter how much he says he doesn't. He does. And I think his perception matters to him more than it does to a lot of other athletes. There are some athletes that say, I don't care what people think about me. Kobe Bryant probably, the epitome of that. Like, I'm just going to go out there and win. And LeBron cares about winning, very much so, obviously. And he lets you know it. But I think he gets in his own head too much. And he's worried. He gets worried out there sometimes. And when he's kind of mentally out of whack, he's not playing his game. And his team struggles because of that at times. I don't think he's
been so passive, too.
Serious. Last year, he was amazing in the finals. He single-handedly carried that team in the Cavs, to 6 games against one of the best teams ever, and that of the Warriors. This franchise, we're looking at you can't say a dynasty. They've only won one title, but in regards to the makeup of this team and what they bring to the table, they're one of the best we've seen in a long time. They have that potential. They're on that track.
The core could all be together. They're all 27 years old and younger, too.
Yeah, and I mean, in regards to maintaining that, just to digress here for a second, maintaining that's going to be tough. We see, realistically, Harrison Barnes is going to be gone after this offseason with the amount of money he's going to command on the market. And then you look at the other pieces that are eventually going to go. I mean, part of why this works right now is Steph is making, $11 million a year? What happens after next year?
I think I saw he's the 9th highest paid player in the series.
Yeah, and what's going to be crazy – yeah, what happens next year when Harrison Barnes will be making probably more than double than what Steph's getting paid right now? That's a reality of how crazy this offseason is going to be. But to get back to what we were talking about, point here being is that LeBron needs to get his head right, because he's not been that dominant player that we saw last year that single-handedly carried the team. After 2, shaky games, Kyrie Irving has come to the table for the Cavs. He's been the reason. I mean, LeBron had a very good game in Game 3 when the stats all piled up at the end, but he struggled in that first half. He didn't get his mid-range jumper going really until early in that midway through that third quarter. That's when LeBron really started to heat up.
You don't want him to rely on his jumper.
No. Say that again, sorry?
You don't want him to have to rely on his jumper. That's not his game, and it hasn't been for a long time. And I think that's why I don't know, it's almost like he's trying to be aggressive in a sense, that he's trying to go to the hoop, but we've seen him in a couple games. The first 2, he's coming out trying to be like a point guard, trying to be passive. And then when he does go to the hoop, he's often fading away or just not getting foul calls. And the way he's shooting free throws right now, that doesn't help either. It's just a lot of things not going in his way. And he gets very little help other than Kyrie Irving right now.
Well, the free throws have been all season long, and that's something he needs to address in the offseason, because someone that's game revolves around taking the ball to the rack as much as he does, he needs to be a better foul shooter. Simply, his percentage is not what it needs to be. I forget exactly how bad it is, but you just see at times in big moments, LeBron does not always hit his foul shots. At the end of Game 4, when it was over at that point, it was tough to come back. But LeBron had potential three-point play with, I guess it was like 2 minutes.
I think he was 2 for 4 on the game.
Yeah, he 2 for 4 on the game, but
that's not enough attempts.
He didn't get the friendly roll. Then he goes to the line. Then he only goes 1 and 2 there. And it's like, you're LeBron James. You got to hit both of these. I mean, come on. His foul shot is not what it needs to be, and that's apparent. But that aside, LeBron needs to be able to at least make you play out a little bit, because what the Warriors are doing to be so good defensively right now is they are literally just swarming him in the paint. They're testing him. They're letting him shoot that jumper, and he isn't shooting it enough, and he's not making it enough. He just hesitated to do it. And I don't know what that's a result of. It seems to me that his jumper, it used to be better. And I don't know if that's just him. I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's related to him getting a little older. Maybe his legs aren't what they used to be, if he relies on his legs as much for his jumper. But we're not talking about him as a three-point shooter, because he's never been a great three-point shooter. But, he needs to be better from around the foul line and a little out. He needs to be able to hit those jumpers, even a little in. He needs to be able to do that and at least make the defense be honest at that point outside of the basket, because if they're allowed to swarm LeBron, then he gets in his own head, he's struggling, and then he's out there complaining about foul calls and stuff because he's frustrated with himself. And when he's frustrated with himself, he's not playing his kind of game. For some guys, they can struggle all they want, but they're going to play their game no matter what. Kobe is one of those guys that throughout his career, he played his style of game no matter if he was 0 for 20 or 10 for 15 didn't matter. He would continue to take those
Well,
shots.
maybe we don't know what LeBron's true game is because I feel like it changes all the time. He's never been a mid-range jumper guy, and as much as Golden State has been able to clog the paint, Andrew Bogut's done a really good job this series being a rim protector, but they also have 4 guys who can guard him. So you can wear him down with fresh legs the whole time. Obviously, Iguodala's done a good job, but you can throw Klay Thompson, Harrison Barnes, and Draymond Green. So even with Green out tonight, they're going to have 3 guys that are 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan who are going to give him trouble, and Bogut's in there in the paint. And if no one's hitting threes, he's got nowhere to kick it. That's just how I think this series has gone. Golden State has more bodies, more length, and athleticism, and they're just giving them fits.
Well, with LeBron, I mean, we said, what is his game? His game, like you kind of alluded to there, Connor, driving the ball to the hole, and he's very good at finding his teammates. Even though he hasn't been at his peak this series, he's still finding his teammates at a very high level. He's been able to distribute the ball, but Iman Shumpert has not been able to shoot at all. Not that Iman Shumpert is a source of reliable offense, but he's a guy you can expect to hit maybe 1 or 2 outside shots. He's not hitting anything. He's a complete enigma offensively. And JR has been back and forth. He did have that big game, game 3, but he hasn't been as reliable as you'd like this whole series. And Kevin Love not playing game 3. He hasn't been great. We'll see what
Channing Frye was brought over exactly for this.
Yeah, Channing
Frye. Just to make these threes, and he's not doing anything. He's barely even touching the court.
I mean, Channing Frye can't guard anybody. That's why he's not out there, which is obviously a problem. He needs to be able to guard someone.
One more point I want to add is Cleveland, as opposed to Golden State has a lot of guys that are solid two-way players. Cleveland has guys that are offensive players. Besides Shumpert, LeBron, Tristan Thompson can rebound a little bit. J.R. Smith's maybe underrated, but he's not a great defender. And then the guys they need the threes from, Channing Frye and Kevin Love, they're not great defenders, and their three-pointers are being limited because Golden State can switch every screen and they get out there and contest. And Tristan Thompson's the only one who's getting offensive rebounds. So they're kind of just chucking up contested threes or driving the lane and hoping to get foul calls, and it hasn't gone their way. When on the other end, Golden State's made a record number of three-pointers. That's really hard to win that way.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Cavs' last game this really applied to, because the first 2 games they got manhandled. Even game 1, they were up for a little bit. It was a close game for a while. Then in the third quarter, kind of broke away from them, and then the score was very lopsided by the end. Game 2, completely distraught. Game 3, opposite end of the spectrum. But last game, the Cavs were in it for a long time. They were up going into the 4th, but as you said, the Warriors, with the efficiency they are good with how efficient they are from beyond the arc, if they get hot, they go up in a hurry. And it's hard for the Cavs to score when
that's hard.
Yeah, it was only LeBron and Kyrie taking the shots in the second half. In the post-game presser, one of the reporters asked them, I think it was 33 out of the 38 shots taken by the Cavs in the second half were taken by LeBron and Kyrie. Nobody else. They're
not getting anything from their bench. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but they only have a 6-man rotation, and they're just getting nothing from those other guys. LeBron and Kyrie have, I think, combined for 63 points, I think, last game. Kyrie had 38, LeBron had 25. That should be good enough if you get any help from anyone else, and they just haven't gotten it.
The thing, though, LeBron actually, he did end up with 25 last game, and it's funny because his numbers, they don't look all that bad, but it's just the way he's playing.
7 turnovers.
You look at a guy with 25 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, you're going to say, all right, that was a very good game. He shot 52% from the field, but you saw the kind of shots he was getting and the kind of shots he was struggling to make. Well, and I think that's the concern.
In the fourth quarter, if you looked at it, I think in the last 5 possessions, he took two deep threes, turned it over once, and didn't get a good shot the other time. So the late end of the game possessions, they just have to capitalize better.
Yeah, again, you're right about that in regards to the Cavs being able to, get points down the stretch. But we talk about the bench, and the bench does need to perform better. Kevin Love needs to perform better. But the only way you're beating a team that not only did they win the most games all time in the regular season, they're also coming off really a monumental Western Conference Finals win, coming back 3-1 against a very, very good Thunder team with 2 of the, you could say, top 5 players in the league. But to do that, you need LeBron James to be at the form he was last year. He doesn't need to be good. He needs to be great. He needs to be great. And I don't think he's been great this finals. He really hasn't because of what we talked about. His inability to hit those mid-range shots. From downtown, it is what it is. LeBron James struggles to shoot the three ball now, and it's gotten worse over the last few years. He's been down to 30% from beyond the arc this year. But that's a whole other thing. But he still has only been able to score very close to the basket. He needs to diversify his game a little bit. He needs to be confident in his ability to hit those shots. And when he's not confident in that, he's not going to be as great a player as you want him to be. Because when you have to guard him a little closer from out there, it spaces the floor better for everybody else to get open looks. We'll see what happens this game with that. And it'll be different with Draymond not out there, because that certainly will free the floor up a little bit. I wonder how Kevin Love will react to that. I wonder how the Cavs are going to line up, and more importantly, how the Warriors are going to go about matching up. Because with Draymond out of the lineup, do you continue the small ball there? Do you continue the small ball and maybe you plop Harrison Barnes in at the 4, or how do you want to go about it? I'm curious to see how the Warriors want to line up. Or what you could do, you have Sean Livingston. You could have him start too. Maybe you play him at the 2, you play Clay at the 3, and then I guess Barnes at the 4, Bogut 5. You could do that. There's so many different ways you can go about this. I'm curious.
I think Iguodala will start. Don't you think Iguodala will get the start tonight?
I think that would make sense, but I don't know
It'll
how.
hurt their bench, but I feel like they're going to want him on LeBron as much as possible.
You're right, because they could go that way. They could go the Livingston route, like I mentioned, or how they want to do it. Because I know Kevin Love hasn't been great this series, but you need him. And then, of course, you need to worry about LeBron. Kyrie absolutely going bonkers the past 2 games. They would have had to contain him a little more. But Steve Kerr is an interesting, lineup situation to figure out for himself. For the Cavs, you imagine, I guess, do you keep Love coming off
Love out?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done anything to prove he should be in the starting lineup at this point. RJ has been very productive, and it's really crazy to see that as someone who's a diehard Nets fan who has seen RJ be productive so long ago. Yeah, he comes into the league on the finals team in 2002, and then he's on the finals team the next year in his second year, and now he's finally back in the finals again as he's down to the end of his career here. He's still got, I guess, a few more years left. He's not as old as you make him out. A lot of people make him out to be, but he's no spring chicken. But he's out there in the finals, and he matches up very well against this Warriors team. That's the crazy thing. He matches up very well. But T. Lue could adjust. He could say that, all right, Draymond's not in the lineup. Maybe Kevin will be a good spot, good fit starting. But I don't know if that's the right move. You don't know what's going on in that locker room, how Kevin Love is coping with the fact that he's a guy that's supposed to be seen as a star in this league and coming off the bench. That's not necessarily a bad thing the way I see it. But, in his psyche, I don't know how he's feeling about it.
I can't imagine how he's feeling right now because he's making so much money, and we know he knows he can put up numbers like 25 and 12. He's been obviously underutilized in this Cavaliers offense. They kind of just stick him in the corner and have him spot up and shoot threes. Yes, he's a bad defender, but there's plenty of guys that are really good offensive players who can't play defense. He's not the only one. I think it's just got to be crazy for him to see all these people kind of analyzing his emotions and saying, is he a tough enough guy to be able to come off the bench? All these things. It's a tough spot for him. I don't know where he's probably going to be gone after this. You got to think. I don't know where he's going to go, but
I think we go back. I think we go back and forth with this Kevin Love thing way too much. Just generally, we listen to every basketball pundit out there, because during the Toronto series when Kevin Love was being very productive, we weren't saying this earlier in the playoffs when the Cavs were out there sweeping all these teams, and Kevin Love was a big part of why they were being so productive. Because it goes through spurts with Kevin Love. There are times when the Cavs struggle, I feel like he gets a brunt of the blame when he really shouldn't as much. And yeah, he struggled in these finals mightily. We can all attest to that. But game 1, right off the bat, when the Cavs were productive early on, Kevin Love was doing very well in that first quarter. He does at times work well against a smaller Warriors lineup because of his ability to rebound the ball. And he got hurt game 2. didn't play game 3. Last game coming off the bench, it's a little bit of an adjustment there. But in 25 minutes, 3 for 6 from the field, 1 for 2 from beyond the arc, 11 points, 5 rebounds. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's not to say that Kevin Love's been a problem. And I think they've been better about trying to get him the ball inside. And you don't know how he was feeling last game, at least physically. I mean, he just cleared that concussion deadline, just cleared it. And I'll let you talk. I'm going to go get my computer charger real quick. But, yeah, in regards to Kevin Love, I think there's still more left in the tank in this series. I don't think he's leaving the team just yet. And I think tonight he could be primed for a big night.
I think it's interesting because Kevin Love, it's really a double-edged sword. He's a great three-point shooter, and he's a great offensive rebounder, and he's a pretty decent player in the post. But if you're going to be a three-point shooter and an offensive rebounder, you have to pick one or the other. Cleveland's picked putting him on the perimeter, and when you're stuck on the perimeter, you can't offensive rebound as well unless you're getting a long, lucky bounce. So I think that's hurt him. I think the Cavaliers as a whole, they were killing it from the perimeter against Eastern Conference teams. I don't know. I don't want to be that guy who just says the West is so much better than the East and the Warriors are just a better. But at some point, that's got to be part of the reason why Cleveland's struggling so much, that they had an easier road against teams like Atlanta and Toronto who can't get out to them at 3. LeBron can beat someone off the dribble and kick someone's open. J.R. Smith has more confidence. Channing Frye has more confidence. When the Warriors lock down on defense, they're by far the best team in the league. And it's very hard to challenge them. And maybe I overreacted saying Kevin Love is going somewhere he's not a fit, but I don't know. He had like 8 points and a couple rebounds last game, and he's not the only one, but guys just have to step up, and maybe it's just because Golden State's that much better.
And what's interesting is that in theory, again, this isn't based on what we've seen because obviously Golden State has been a very tough matchup for the Cavs based on one and just the eye test of watching the games. But if you looked at what could have happened, I wonder how this Cavs against, the Thunder or way back tracking even the Spurs, because I know that some people, some Cavs fans, they might think in theory that, okay, Golden State personnel, at least the matchups, you would think that it would be based on you look at some of the other guys that Golden State had, that the Thunder had, the way they were playing small ball against the Warriors, the way they were able to stick Ibaka in there at the 5. You can almost say that would be tough on personnel, but the difference is the mental component of it, the way the Warriors were able to come back in these games, the way they be up by double digits because all these crazy shots when Clay's going against the Thunder 6. They're very, very hard. That it's versus, and that's what's been so hard for the Cavs. That game 1, the Cavs lost by a lot, but in that it was the kind of thing when you just saw the Warriors like 2. Game 3, Cavs come in business on their home floor. Game 4, close game. Dubs pull away at the end. So that's been the story here. Game 5, Draymond out tonight, and Cavs have a prime opportunity. You'll see how they'll match up against them. I think that Kevin Love does fit here on the Cavs. I really do. And it's not like when you kind of look at the history of LeBron and his teammates, Miami, but was Chris Bosh really dominating when he was there? No. Chris Bosh was playing that kind of third wheel role where he was out there all the time.
And he got a lot of the same criticism.
Yeah, he did. But now that you look back and in retrospect, people say, oh, LeBron won 2 titles at all. People forget that aspect of it too, that Chris Bosh really kind of there. And then when you look at what you said before in regards to Kevin Love offensive rebounding, I think part of the problem is him and Tristan Thompson, for the reason that If Kevin Love is one league, I think there's an offensive rebounder in this league as good as Tristan Thompson, just in regards to that one component. If you solely based on offensive rebounding, he might be the best in the league.
He had 5 in the first quarter.
When the Cavs struggle early on to clean up the inside misses, LeBron Thompson's always able to come up with that ball time and time again. So he's been very valuable for them in that regard, even though his game is so limited. He is one thing he's very, very good at. And I think that's been the biggest thing with him meshing with Kevin Love. It's figuring out how you combine two very good rebounders to both be productive. Neither of them great defenders. I think Tristan's a decent defender.
You can't have them on the court at the same time. That's the other problem, because LeBron has shown us these playoffs that he's by far the best when he's playing the 4. And Kevin Love, Thompson, and LeBron can't all play 4 and 5. So that's kind of another place Ty Lue has to make an adjustment.
Problem is, like we've talked about, this would be one thing if other bench players were doing what you expect them to. If Fry was giving you more minutes, if Mozgov was giving you something. Mozgov has been a non-factor for months now. Yeah, I mean, hey,
you didn't think he was very good last year, but
yeah, I was going to say not to call you out on Delhi here, but you were talking about. I do want to bring this up. You did mention on Twitter.
What was this, I guess, right. Yeah.
How
I think I said he was locking down Curry. I was maybe a little overzealous.
You were talking about how he might be in there for Kyrie at some points during the fourth quarter, and I'm like, no way. And sure enough, how many minutes? Delhi's not playing.
He hasn't played at all. Maybe he's gotten worse. I don't know.
I just don't think
he doesn't give him anything on offense. That's the thing.
Yeah, the thing with him is he gets so crazy with his shots sometimes. He just has this crazy confidence that he can hit everything. And I guess game 2, well, I guess a lot of that game 2 was some garbage time. He got 17 minutes. Game 1, 11 minutes. Last game 3. So, yeah, Delhi hasn't been a factor. They haven't needed him to be. And the reason for that, honestly, as much as I love joking around about Dellavedova, because I was talking a few weeks ago how I was never that big on him. I think he got very overhyped last finals. But, oh, my God, sorry about my ESPN thing keeps going off. There's a legitimate problem. But the big reason for that is that LeBron's playing point forward now. That's how the Cavs were able to take game 3. And when you have LeBron handling the ball a lot of the time, what is Dellavedova's role in the team? You could bring him in to play off the ball? It's not necessary because it's worked well. Kyrie has been able to get loose.
Where their offense is going, you can't afford to have Kyrie Irving off the floor because no one else is giving them any offense. And you can't go to more than one guy on the bench. They haven't been able to. So Kyrie and LeBron pretty much need to be on the court at all times.
Yeah, they've obviously controlled so many of the minutes. And what I was saying about LeBron being the point forward, if he's got the ball in his hands and you can sub Kyrie out for a little bit, there's really not a need for a true backup point guard. So Dellavedova at that point, when are you going to play him? What's the point? So that's been what's going, and I think that's a big reason why Kyrie's been able to get freed up offensively. I was saying this after game 2 on Twitter. I was saying that the only way the Cavs can come back at all is you put LeBron at point forward. Because when Kyrie is dribbling the ball too long, as masterful as he's been these past 2 games, when he's controlling the ball too long, it kind of slows the offense. There's no rhythm. He go into a corner, then trying to dazzle with his dribbles. That doesn't free the offense up. If you have LeBron, you draw the attention to him, and then you can free up Kyrie in a matchup where he's able to get loose a little bit and then put on the moves. And that's what they've been doing. So LeBron being point forward has been great, but LeBron still hasn't been at that level we've seen him at last year. Tonight, prime opportunity. No Draymond Green in the lineup. So at this point, ideally, you like to see LeBron get the ball to the rack a little more, and maybe Kevin Love is more efficient there. And who knows? The Cavs are in a position to take a game here, go back home for game 6. I don't see a way they can win a game 7 in Golden State. I'll just put that out there right now. I'd love to see the series go 7. I just don't see a way after what we've seen in higher playoffs, especially that Thunder series, how the Cleveland Cavaliers can win the next 3 games. I think that they could win 2 maybe. I think 2 is doable. I don't think it'll happen necessarily, but I don't see 3 as a possibility. I'll just put that out there right now. I don't see a way they can win a game 7 in Golden State.
I don't know. They're going to have to bring out all kinds of effort. And just quickly to your point about Kyrie Irving, there's some stat. I think it was through 2 games. I have it right here. When he gets the ball off the pass, he was 8 of 9 from the field, and when he dribbled the ball up to half court and took a shot, he was 4 of 27. So your point is completely accurate there. That he's better
right,
when people are sharing the ball with him. But as far as them winning tonight's game, they're going to need that game 3 effort they had, where they came out and they were desperate. But this time they're not going to have the home court behind them. I think when you watch them come out in game 3 early, their defensive intensity was off the charts. Like when you see, I mean, obviously Kyrie Irving's offense makes him more motivated to play defense, but he was all up in Stephen Curry. They were all way out defending on the perimeter, and that's just about really effort. That's what defense is at the end of the day. It's a little bit of skill and a lot of effort, and they need a 200% effort to have a chance because it's just as much a must-win for Golden State. They want to get this over with as soon as they can, and they want to win one in front of their home crowd.
And one other to keep in mind, talked about Steph Curry. He finally got going last game, 38 points for him. He finally was able to put up points in bunches, which he struggled to do all series. Struggled in game 3 especially. Game 2 was, I guess he shot the ball well. He only played 25 minutes, but we finally saw him dominate in game 4 in Cleveland. So I'm curious how – there are 2 people specifically I'm curious about in this one. Obviously, I'm curious about Steph, but with what Clay said about the Draymond Green incident, he had some strong words for LeBron. You know, he more or less said that LeBron looked like he got his feelings hurt without saying LeBron. He said that in the postgame.
You got to
LeBron was asked about, oh, you know, I love Klay Thompson. I love what he's about. He seems like a very real player. And then LeBron kind of said that he's going to take the high road. That's literally what he said in.
Did you see Ayesha Curry's tweet?
Ayesha
Curry's wife, yeah.
Yeah.
She tweeted some trash talk thing at LeBron. It's all a little ridiculous, but I don't know. Because LeBron,
I'm not big on the whole NBA first.
You heard. Okay, so it's essentially Draymond calls him the B word. That's what we'll call it here. We don't, since it's on YouTube, the B word, and that's what he's that upset about. Like we've seen Joakim Noah call him that on camera. I'm sure a lot of people have called him that. I think Stephen A. Smith called him that today on live television. So, I mean, that can't. There's got to be more to that. I don't know what LeBron's doing.
I haven't watched that nonsense in like 3 years.
I just see people tweet about it. I would never watch it.
Yeah, no.
Especially now that Skip's leaving. I mean, just can't anymore.
First of all, let me just stop this B word nonsense here. We can talk realistically here, Connor. He called LeBron a bitch. He called LeBron a bitch. That's what he called him. I mean,
I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that. Honestly.
I mean, the way I don't know. But here's the thing: we're basing that. I mean, Draymond. I saw a video that I guess he called Steven Adams that at one point during the series, which makes no sense whatsoever considering what happened to Steven Adams due to the foot of Draymond Green. But we won't go there. But I don't know if LeBron just got pissed about that. If he did, I'd have to say
he said that was crossing the line. That's what he said. He said that word was crossing the line. Draymond calling him that was crossing the line. So if he's never heard more trash talk than that, being a superstar since age 16, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me like kids in high school weren't saying that to LeBron all the time?
No way.
Are you kidding me? If you're going against somebody that's that good at that age, when nobody has the size to guard him, and he's putting up like 40 a night, you're gonna say everything. But I don't know what it was. I don't know exactly what's going on here, or if he just wanted to get Draymond offended. I hope it's not LeBron getting offended by that, because that would be preposterous. But at the same time, I also think it was reasonable to suspend Draymond Green because he does the same act time and time again. And this one was not – this probably was the least harmful one out of everything he's done this whole postseason. But I think it's added up to a point where a message needed to be sent to him that you can't keep doing this nonsense. And he'll be watching the game while he's watching the A's play. If his team wins tonight, then you're set. He'll get to come in there for the postgame. And I don't know. I think that the suspension was reasonable. I think LeBron can't actually take that offensively. You need to go out there and let your game do the talking, or you fire something back. If you want to talk smack and then get Draymond riled up, so be it. But to get offended by that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And it's I'm glad as a neutral observer to see Draymond be suspended because you said it's probably it's literally the fourth flagrant point he's had. So there's only maybe 1 or 2 games left. You have to send some kind of message because the kick to the groin on Steven Adams, tackling Adams to the ground, swinging arms at people. You just had to get him at some point. So maybe he'll learn from it. He'll probably just be the same guy. And, I can't blame him for that. He is who he is. But he's a big-time player, and we'll see if it makes a difference. I think the depth of Golden State's still going to be able to handle LeBron, being able to throw Clay, Barnes, and mostly Iguodala at him. And Bogut's giving him big minutes, too, inside. So I think they'll be fine there. LeBron's going to need some kind of Herculean performance.
Yeah, and before we wrap up this discussion on the finals, one thing to say is that you mentioned Draymond is who he is. In a way, you want to make sure he maintains that, and I'm sure he will. There's no way he's not going to, but you see him even when the Warriors are struggling in the timeouts. He's the vocal leader of that team. Steve Kerr says it all the time on the sidelines. Draymond Green is what makes that team this good, at least on the emotional side of things. They need him to be that kind of hyper guy, the guy not afraid to speak his mind. They need that from him because Steph is a superstar, but he's not a very vocal guy. You see that already. Draymond Green is the vocal guy in that locker room, and they need that from him. And it's important that he acts that way. Yeah, maybe it's ridiculous that happened to Steven Adams twice, but in regards to what he brings to the locker room in an emotional sense, that's never going to change. That's what makes the Warriors tick. That's what brings them to that next level. So they're going to need that from Draymond Green. But I think we've talked about the series, about this game specifically, a long time. Let's just get into the picks. I want to see the series keep going, and I want to see Game 6 in Cleveland with Draymond back all riled up. I'm going to pick the Cavs. That said, though, it's tough. I'm going to pick the Cavs, obviously, because I just picked them. But on the other end,
it's too late.
I will say, it's too late to go back. The one thing I'm going to say is I could also see Klay Thompson going berserk tonight. I'm going to pick the Cavs regardless, but watch out for Klay to go on one of those crazy games where he hits how many threes. I just have a feeling that this trash talk after what he said in the media, he's going to need to back that up. And I want to see what he does tonight. But I'm going Cavs tonight. Want to see this go to a Game 6. Make it a little more fun.
Yeah, I'm going Warriors. I think at home, we know they're pretty much invincible. And I just don't think desperation is going to make Cleveland shoot better from 3. Golden State is still Draymond's one guy, but they're still 6 or 7 deep in terms of really good two-way players who can get out and defend. Kyrie Irving probably not going to get 40 again. He's been shooting a really high percentage. And I think unless they get 15 threes or so, or unless they show that crazy defense that they played in Game 3, I don't think they have – they have a chance, obviously. It's going to be – I hope it's a close game. But they've had these 8-point leads going into the halftime, a couple-point leads in the fourth quarter, and they can't withstand these Golden State runs. And I just think Golden State's going to be too much for them tonight at home.
All right, and interesting note here. Lineups for tonight's game coming into on Twitter 8 minutes ago. For the Dubs, Curry, Thompson, Iggy, Barnes, and Bogut. So they're going small ball. Now for Cleveland, how are they going to counter that? Not what we expect.
Kevin Love.
LeBron, Kevin Love, and Tristan. So Kevin Love getting the start. Maybe he's at full strength now. This is going to be fun because at that point, how you do this, you want to figure out who's going to guard who for Cleveland. I don't know. I don't know how they want to do it because the one thing I've learned this finals specifically is that Tristan Thompson race to his lateral quickness. He could guard a smaller guy and he can move around a little bit. It's surprising to see, but Tristan Thompson, he doesn't strike you as a guy that can move around as well as he does. So, however they're going to pull it for tonight, I don't know if you want Love on Harrison Barnes or if you want. I don't know how you want to do it.
Yeah, but I think it could be a big Harry Barnes game.
So, in terms of that, just final thoughts before we get off the air. We get off, I guess, the air. I guess. Well, technically, it's on air.
Want to pick MVP? Who do you think is going to be Finals MVP? If Golden State wins, we'll say. Because I don't know who's. I
It'd be
think it's
funny if it
probably
was
like
Draymond. That'd
Iguodala
be,
right
that'd be
now.
really funny if they give it a. All right, if they give it a Draymond, that would be
That'd be
hilarious. So what would be
hysterical.
even crazier is it? What if it's Andre Iguodala is a 2 times Finals
I
MVP? Have
think
we
it
even
could
thought
be.
about
Yeah.
that? I mean, it would be a logical choice because at this point you're not giving it to Steph or Clay, and unless something crazy happens in Game 5, I don't see either of them getting it.
Iguodala's plus minus
All
is
has been
20 better than the next guy on the Warriors this series. He's plus
uh
54, and the next
yeah
best guy is plus 36.
yeah
So
I
who
mean
knows?
that's a fair choice, but then you look at this all time like
If
two
Curry and
times
Thompson
final.
have a big game, they'll get it.
Yeah, I think they'll try not to give it to them. I mean, Draymond is not going to actually get it because not being Game 5, I think, is big. Crazy thought here. What if Harrison Barnes has a big game? Not that I
I
think
think he might.
not that
I don't think
not
he'll get
that
the MVP.
not that he should get it, but last 2 games he's been very good. He's been like sneakily very good. Last 2 games he's been
Finally,
very efficient. He
because
won't get it.
he's
He won't.
usually good when the game's over and when like there's garbage time. That's usually when he's best. But he's been good in important minutes lately.
Yeah, he has. I think that it's going to come down to I think one of the if the Warriors win tonight with Draymond not being out there, it's just natural that the points are going to have to they're going to have to come from somebody else. And I think Steph or Clay is going to have a very big game if they win tonight. And so whichever one of them has the really big game, naturally they'll just get the MVP just to get it. But there is a chance Iguodala could be a 2 times Finals MVP. And in a historical context, that is really interesting. When you put Andre Iguodala, as great as he's been in these past 2 finals, you put him up there with the other 2-time Finals MVPs.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll see. But final thoughts before we get off here to watch Game 5. 2 notes coming out the past hour plus. Bucks re-signing Jason Kidd 3-year extension. He's in the last year of his deal now. So there were questions about, I guess, the Bucks kind of regressing this past year. I think a lot of that could be attributed to injuries. And, I guess Michael Carter-Williams wasn't very healthy this year. He also didn't play very well this year.
Parker was out the whole year pretty much.
Say that again?
Jabari Parker was out pretty much the whole year, right?
Big thing too. Parker, yeah, they eased him back. He didn't really get into anything. So, and then they finally made the transition, put Giannis, the Greek Freak, as the point forward, and it was fun to watch them in the last few games there. Really fun down the stretch to see Giannis just take the ball up, just wait to get a lane to the hole, and just barrel his way through with that crazy frame he's got. So, J. Kidd, he's got this last year on his initial deal, and I guess the deal he signed with the Nets, which is pretty funny to think about. And then he's got 3 more years after that. So he'll be in Milwaukee for the long haul as that team tries to continue its ascendance, as they've got some young, fun players to watch there. And the other thing, report from Mark Stein, Timberwolves considering trading out their number 5 overall pick to get themselves Jimmy Butler. Tibbs is now coach, VP of basketball operations there, or is it president? I'm not even sure. Making front office decisions. That would be interesting. The reports are already that the Wolves are looking to get Joakim Noah in there. Imagine Tibbs gets his 2 favorite guys in there. That could be fun to watch. And that would be a major, major step forward. They have the assets to do it. If they're willing to part ways with a pick, you throw in a few young players, maybe something like, I don't know,
Maybe
Zach
Rubio.
Levine and Zach Levine, Gorgie Jang. You have yourself. That's a deal right there. Not even
Yeah,
they
the
don't
Bulls
even
might be in rebuilding mode.
I think that's the right move for the Bulls. I really do think that's the right move because Jimmy Butler, for however many years, I mean, they have him for a long time now. I believe they have four more years left on his deal that he just signed. What is it going to do? Because you let Derrick Rose finish out the final year of his deal here. They're not going to bring back Pau Gasol, or at least they shouldn't. I don't think.
What else do you have left? Mirotic?
You have some young guys, but you have some young guys that you could really work with. I mean, Mirotic is what, 27 now? Mirotic, you have Bobby Young promise. Let them play. You take a number 5 pick. Maybe if they have Zach Levine and Zach Levine, someone you talk about, maybe a Gorgie Jang, something, you can work around with that. You could really work around with that as you go forward, because whatever the Bulls have now, it's not working. It's not going anywhere. They thought they can compete with the Cavs in the East. They can't. They can't even compete with the Raptors in the East. They can't even make the playoffs in the East. They got to rebuild. I think getting Jimmy Butler out of there, and especially when there's legitimate injury concern that people forget about, he's had some injuries in his career, and the way he plays, with how hard he plays, there's a lot of reason to be concerned. If you could shop him for legitimate value from the Wolves, I think you got to do that deal.
Yeah, and I think they could probably they might want to talk to Boston because they could probably get better than the 5th pick for Jimmy Butler. But maybe Timberwolves have more players to offer. We know the Celtics have a ton of picks.
That's the thing. That's the thing, because it's not going to be the pick alone. You're not going to do the pick alone for Jimmy Butler. I wouldn't do the pick alone for Jimmy Butler. But you look at a guy like Zach LaVine, Gorgie Jane, there's so many young guys in that team. There's Shabazz Muhammad. You forget about how many young guys that Minnesota has stockpiled. And they have them. And now you have a legitimate superstar in the making, 2 legitimate superstars in the making, in Karl Anthony Towns especially, and then Andrew Wiggins too. You have both of those guys. Imagine bringing in Jimmy Butler to that. That's going to be so much fun. So much fun. That's a serious team right there. That's a team that we will see what else they do in the offseason. But that very well, as good as the West is, you add Jimmy Butler to all those young guys. You imagine they're going to make major jumps, Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins. Could be a playoff team next year. Could be a lot of fun. And KG there, still the emotional leader, keeping all the young guys in check. Tibbs holding down the fort, have some kind of fun defense to watch. I think that's a move that both sides got to make, and time is now for Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yep, and with that, that's all we got for your KNC Basketball Podcast, episode number 1. It's going to be up on YouTube for your watching, and we're just starting this out, so we don't have a legitimate schedule as to when we're doing this for right now, but assuming the finals keeps going on, we'll keep going, and the draft's coming up. There's so many things coming up. Free agency is going to be bonkers with the cap rising the way it is, and Connor and I are going to keep you covered, so we'll start getting things situated. This just want to get a little. It'll be up on YouTube, and thank you for watching episode number 1, KNC Basketball Podcast.